during the day much, so I miss human contact.
Yeah.
A lot.
I can see how that would happen. I think for me, because it's still fairly new, I just absolutely love it. I love the fact that I decide when I start work and I decide what I'm wearing. This is a big thing for me. I actually quite like working in my pyjamas.
Yeah, they always joke that when you start working freelance or at home, then you can work in your underwear, if you like.
Yeah, I don't work in my underwear, just so nobody
I
has
do
me.
sometimes. No, I didn't say that.
And I like, I thought to begin with maybe I would work less, but actually I think I work more because it's difficult, and maybe this is a disadvantage. It's difficult to stop work because when you work from home, anytime you're in the house, you can feel like you're at work. Do you have that?
Yes, very much. And it's one of the hardest things is to create a separation between your work and your home. So, when you go out to work and you come home, it feels really nice to be home. But if you don't leave the building, then it's difficult to create the separation. And now I have a separate office, which is great because I can sort of shut the door. And when I shut the door, I've left work. But still it's difficult. I can find myself sometimes going into the room, starting work again, and you work sometimes, there's nothing stopping you working until midnight.
Yeah. I remember reading years ago about a guy who worked from home, and what he did to give himself a feeling like he was going to work is that he would get up normally, have a shower, put his work clothes on, go out of the front door, walk around the house and come in the back door to give himself the feeling that he'd left home when he was going to work.
And this is what my friend Ben recommended to me 2 weeks ago. He said, why don't you get on your bike, ride around for 15 minutes and then arrive back at the house and then start work. And I think it could work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But if I were to say to you now, okay, choose now, do you want to go to work every day, leave the house and go to an office, for example, or do you want to continue working at home? Which would you choose?
If I had the choice, I would choose a mixture. The ideal working situation for me would be to have a shared office somewhere that was within 15 minutes walk of the house, that I could go to perhaps 3 days a week and then work from home the other 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how hard we're working. But yeah, I think a nice balance would be good between the two.
Listening task 4. Answers. The advantages we talked about were being able to start and finish work when you want, being able to wear the clothes you want, not having to travel. The disadvantages we talked about were being lonely because you don't spend as much time with other people, always feeling like you are at work because your job is in your home. Well done! You've practiced listening to natural, unscripted speech on the topic of jobs and employment.
Recuerda que en el ebook que acompaña este podcast encontrarás más ejercicios que te ayudarán a desarrollar tu listening. Thank you for listening. Bye. Zap Inglés Vocabulario.
Level 2, Unit 1, Jobs and Work.
Este podcast de vocabulario con inglés real se acompaña de un ebook que puedes descargar en inglés.fm.
In this unit, you're going to learn words and phrases for talking about jobs, as well as improving your pronunciation and listening. Meaning and pronunciation 1. First, we're going to learn the vocabulary. You need to try and answer my questions to guess the words and phrases. Whenever you hear a beep, you should repeat. Here we go. If you have a job, you are employed, employed, employed. And so what's the opposite? If you don't have a job, you are unemployed, unemployed. I'm unemployed at the moment. We have quite a few phrases with the word job. If you're unemployed, you need to look for a job. Notice how the words link. For a, look for a job. Or find a job. The words link here too. Finder, find a job. I need to find a job. When you look for a job and you find one you want, what do you need to do? Apply. Here too, the for and are linked. For a, apply for a job. He applied for a job at the hospital. When you apply for a job, you need to answer questions on a piece of paper and tell them about your experience, etc. What do you do? Fill in an application form. Fill in an application form. I filled in an application form. Now imagine they offer you the job. If you say yes, you'll need to sign a piece of paper which says you agree and gives you details about your pay and what you need to do in your work. What do you do? Sign a contract. Sign a contract. I signed the contract yesterday. There are 3 prepositions we often use together with the verb work. I work as, plus the name of a job. I work as a teacher. Listen to the connection. 'Cause I work as a teacher. I work in plus a place. I work in an office. There's a connection again. Kinna. I work in an office. I work for plus noun. I work for a large company. And again, for a. I work for a large company. Now, if you have a job, there are some ways to talk about the money you earn. If you get the same amount of money, even if you work more hours, and you're paid every month, we call this your salary. Salary. He gets a good salary. And if you're paid by the hour or for the amount of time you work, we call this wages. Her last syllable is, wages. The wages are low. Vocabulary and listening 1. Now listen to some questions. Can you guess which word is missing? You'll hear the answers afterwards. Have you ever, in an application form, which job was it for? Have you ever filled in an application form? Which job was it for? What do you think is the best way to a job? What do you think is the best way to find a job? Are you paid a or wages? Are you paid a salary or wages? Who do you work? What's your job? Who do you work for? What's your job? Have you ever been unemployed? Vocabulary and listening 2. Now you're going to hear the answers to the questions. Which question does each answer match with?
Nowadays, I am paid a salary for what I do. So that means every month I receive a paycheck into my bank account from the company that employs me. When I was younger, I used to work in other jobs and I was paid a wage. So every week I would get a different amount of money depending on how many hours I'd worked or depending on what I had done.
The question was, are you paid a salary or wages?
Well, there are lots of different ways of job hunting. A lot of these involve the internet. You can look on job vacancy websites to try and find something that would suit you, or you can look on company websites if there's a particular company you'd like to work for to try their vacancies section. Or there are also websites that you can load your CV onto and they can try to contact you with jobs that might be suitable. Other more traditional ways of finding a job are sending a CV and a cover letter to a company that you're interested in working for, or going in and showing your face and saying, look, I'm available for work and I'd like to work for you. Obviously, try and be well presented and with nice clothes on and be respectful. And I think the best way of finding a job is probably to do a combination of all of these things, to put yourself out there and be proactive, and hopefully one of the companies will respond to you and ask you for an interview.
The question was, what do you think is the best way to find a job?
Shortly after I left university, I was looking for a job and I found it very difficult to find the job that I wanted. So I was unemployed for a short while. And I registered as an unemployed worker and received unemployment benefit from Social Security. And unfortunately, I didn't find the kind of job I was looking for. I couldn't find anything related to my degree. So I ended up getting a job in a pub, serving drinks and crisps to people, which is my colleagues were all fellow graduates of the same university.
The question was, have you ever been unemployed?
Well, sending a CV to a company is one way to apply for a job, but many companies ask you to fill in an application form as well. And I have filled in many application forms for different jobs. Some of them have resulted in a phone call asking me to come